Well, anybody getting tired of my grizzly bear buddy yet? So much work, man. Holy cow, there's so much work to do around this place. I'm trying to cut loose to hit my zone in the back of the shops. It's a little challenging, but I'm getting there. So many other things to do when it comes to the rest of everyone here, the horses, in everyone's comfort. It's coming along. But I'm heading back to the coast tomorrow, so I will be out in the middle of nowhere doing my thing, and I'm going to plan on doing a lot of videoing while I'm out. I have a few goals that I'm trying to hit when it comes to filming outside, as well as work on the boat and fishing, and some more guiding coming up. And just keep this ball rolling, because I have to take off for a while up north, running around the mountains in the middle of remote nowhere. And it's all coming up fast. Time is just zooming right now. So there you go. So let's get some shares, shall we? Some important shares from some important people that we don't know, but they're very generous in going out of their way to share experiences with us through me on this channel. Now, ouch. Listen to this one. Mark it as red. First off, I'm going to read this word for word. Why not? First off, I give zero fucks if you use my name. I'm 59 years old and I quit caring what people think about me a long time ago. Good for you. You're free. You're absolutely free. I've watched your videos for quite a while now, when you just had the hunting videos, then onto the Sasquatch slash Sabe videos. Quick info about me. I grew up in north central Wisconsin. After high school, I served 10 years in the U.S. Marine Corps. Afterwards, I served another 13 years, active duty, with the Kentucky National Guard in the drug interdiction role. Afterwards, I retired from the military. After 23 years in the military, I worked as a hydraulics mechanic in a plant that made body armor for the military. Now to the weird shit. Or speaking of weird shit, I don't know whose glasses these things are. Wait a minute. Maybe I'll peel the plastic pieces off these suckers. the plastic coating. That ought to help my reading. I'll tell you what, Sarah would laugh her face off of that one. Oh, that's way better. My little brother owns about 14 acres of woods with his house west a few miles of Frankfort, Kentucky. 2 years ago, I started a deer hunt out there. The woods have 3 hills with 2 drains breaking them up. They're in an L shape, draining into a creek bottom. The first year, 2008 season, I positioned myself in the middle of the hill and had a good view down to a clearing about 50 yards away with a bunch of felled trees and limbs. I spent the majority of 3 weeks sitting up there looking down into the clearing. Nothing unusual happened this year, but it's important back info. 2019, about 5 months before deer season opens up. One evening, I had a bit much Woodford Reserve bourbon and access to the internet. I ended up buying a tree stand from Cabela's. Anyway, we put it together and set it up at the bottom of the hills by the creek with my back at the property line. Depending on the wind, I would either use the tree stand or sit at the top of my original spot. One day, in the tree stand, after I woke up, I noticed that it was dead quiet. No birds, no squirrels, sounding like I heard a buffalo. Nothing, just silence. I didn't see anything. It just felt weird. And after about 20 minutes in the woods, the woods went back to normal. A couple of days later, the wind changed directions, so I was sitting atop of the hill in my old spot, looking down into that clearing. After not seeing anything all day, I decided to check the trail across the clearing for a fresh sign. I slowly made my way down the hill to the edge of the clearing. Now this is the same clearing I spent all the previous season looking down into, then off and on this current season. When I got down to the bottom, a panic started to come over me. Somehow I felt lost. I was turning around looking all over, trying to figure out where I was and how to get out. I didn't have any idea where I was. I managed to calm myself down and focused on a big oak tree, and suddenly I knew exactly where I was at. I started walking back up the hill to my spot in front of the tree where I had my gear, trying to make sense of what just happened. I grabbed my gear, got in the truck, went to my brother's house, told him what just happened. He actually believed me. Good little brother. I was back out there at 0400 the next morning and didn't have any other occurrences. On to the sighting. I had completely forgotten about this until I listened to you read a story a few days ago. You see, in 2018 on the 7th and again on the 12th of July, I had 2 strokes. It sucks ass trying to dial a cell phone when half of me don't work or remember how to use the damn thing. Well, that sucks. I'm very lucky to be alive. My carotid artery blew apart. Ugh. The two surgeons told me they didn't think I would live. I was also lucky in that the only side effect was some memory loss. It could have been a lot worse. Every once in a while, I will hear something that brings a memory back, and thanks to you, Steve, I remember the following. Holy shit. 1978 in north central Wisconsin. I was a senior in high school. We had 2 pet rabbits. In the evenings, I would ride my motorcycle out into the country to this clover field to pick some for the rabbits. One evening, I was picking clover and looked over my shoulder. Saw this dark figure of what I thought was a bear about 150 yards away eating the clover. As I watched it, the damn thing stood up, looked over at me, then turned and walked into the tree line. This sort of freaked me out. At the time, I never heard anything about Sasquatch, so I didn't know what it was until many years later. And yes, I still went back there to pick clover, but I kept my bike running and pointed towards home. Now for the last occurrence, 15th May 2021, approximately 0030 hours. I was spending the night back out at my little brother's house. We were watching a movie when I went outside to have a smoke. My brother was gonna pause it, but I told him just watch it. I'd just watch it through the screen door. As I was standing outside with my back exposed smoking, I started to get that feeling you describe about your hair turning to wire. I felt as if eyes were burning into my back. I couldn't get my hand inside. I couldn't get back inside fast enough. Anyway, after the movie, we went out back for another smoke, and my brother commented 3 times about how quiet it is. He said it's normally noisy with animal sounds, frogs, coyotes, owls, etc., but it was dead quiet. Never did I see or hear anything, just silence. He tried to let his 2 big dogs out for a piss break, but they refused to come out. We ended up staying up till 0600. I had my AR-15 right next to me, and that's it. Sorry it was so long, but this shit has been bugging me for some reason. Thanks to you, I now know exactly what the F was happening and what was causing it. Thank you for allowing me to get this shit off my chest. Bless you and your family. Hope your move is smooth. A while back, you posed the question as to where all the good men are. So far, I've found 2 very important men. One of them is your friend, David Politis, and the other one you'll see in the morning when you look in the mirror. Bless you 2 and your families. Watch your back. You're an important part to be putting the puzzle together. Todd Luby. Todd, you are a member of the Club of No Return, obviously, didn't ask for it. You know what's going on out there as well as I do. Thank you very much for sending your experience in to us, to me, to be shared through me with all the people. And you're right, I don't give an F what anybody thinks either, obviously, and I am quite certain we are giving our confidence to thousands of people who appreciate it and are doing the same, right? If you come across any more knowledge, if you have any more experiences that you think sharing could help the people, man, please do it, Todd, all right? And I will get to it and I will share it with the people. And if you ever need help of any kind, come here to this channel and ask for it in the comment section in the videos, or email it to me, whatever. If you know somebody else that needs help, just get the word to us and somebody's gonna help. All right, we got each other's back. Everybody's got each other's back here, no matter what. Thanks again for sharing that, man. Appreciate it. Let's see what else we have here, you guys. Mark this as red so I don't get shit on. They are real, they're intelligent, and my puzzle is complete. All right, this sounds interesting. Dear Steve, I sent my experience to you in early June. I was warned about sharing the story for fear I'd lose my position in search and rescue. After being told not to share, I got pissed. I don't give a damn whether I join a search group again. This experience has to be shared. Okay, I remember this, man. You emailed me and then you emailed me again later not to share, and now you change your mind again. All right, we're going for it this time. There's nothing you can do. It's coming out, it's getting shared. This setting I'm about to tell you isn't the normal type of encounter. In fact, if it didn't happen to me, I'd have a hard time believing it. My name is Tom, I'm 54 and I live in Eastern Washington State. I'm a firefighter, paramedic of 27 years. I volunteer with several search and rescue teams from Washington to Idaho. The late spring of 2014, I was on vacation at my son and daughter-in-law's home in northern Idaho. Went over the local news, they announced a need for trained rescue members to help search for a family of 5 lost for 2 days. I traveled with my seasonal rescue equipment, so I'm prepared at all times. Good for you, man. That's awesome. I drove the hour and 45 minutes with my son to a northern town out of Bonners Ferry, where the command center was. We divided into teams of 7. Everyone from all over the north came out to help. I took lead of my team, got my search map area in high country at the border of Montana and Idaho. Arriving, we met a Montana conservation officer. He told us that the father and children had made it out, but he had to leave his wife because her hip seemed to be broken and couldn't walk. He had left a .357 pistol with her for protection and signal for rescue. She also had a whistle. As we headed up the mountain, after 1 hour, we ran into 3 search volunteers that were gassed from off-trail search as they followed the sound of a whistle. They said, "We followed the whistle sound into the big timber but couldn't catch up to it." Confused by this report, we marked their last GPS area on our map and proceeded to that area. Now it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, weather sunny and dry. We heard a faint whistle sound come from a ridge roughly a half-mile ahead. We thought, awesome, we found her. Steve, this is when things went weird. We hiked maybe 1,000 feet. We heard the whistle again, this time closer. We yelled out her name, but with no reply. We walked another 500 feet when this time, the whistle was now blowing constant, always ahead of us. Our trail was coming to an end. It turned into a narrow game trail. I pulled up the map and GPS to check where we were. We're in the correct area, but not matching the husband's description. We all talked it over this time. Out of the 7 of us, 4 voted to continue to follow this now loud blown constant whistle through the timber across a creek, up a rock wall to a meadow. I radioed to command. We have her. Send the helicopter. She is unconscious. As I set an IV and the other medic stabilized her pelvis, the others cleared out the brush and branches so the prop wash from the airlift wouldn't hurt anyone. One of the members walked over and handed me a bright orange whistle on a lanyard. And she said, "I found this hanging on a tree limb 35 yards away." Steve had freaked us out. How the hell does she blow that whistle? She was unconscious. There were no other hikers on the mountain that we saw, and the area where the whistle was hanging was above a cliff just yards away. After she was recovered by life flight helicopter, we headed out. At the command center, the sheriff greeted us. He took us aside and asked us, all of us, if we saw anything strange. Apparently, when the helicopter was approaching, they both saw a large creature walking away from where we were. We told them about the traveling whistle and how it kept moving as we followed, and that's how we found the victim. Now, I've heard stories of people being helped by these creatures, or sabe as you call them. There are 9 of us, a sheriff, 2 firefighters, myself, and others that experienced this wonder. And I believe these creatures have a purpose on this planet as we do. Nobody can get away with telling me your team was seeing things, or we are lying. It's all recorded now in history. The evidence is overwhelming, Steve. You know it. Tens of thousands of people at the round table know it. And it's about damn time we take over and cancel the idiots that tell us we're seeing bears. Thank you for giving us all a place to share these stories. I am convinced, Steve, they are real and alive on this planet. Sincerely, Tom. Well, that's definitely a holy shit story, Tom. Don't you think? It's an incredible story, man. And you know, on that note, there's a lot of people out there, there's a handful of people out there who have emailed me or commented the odd time or whatever, and they're blowing a gasket because they think that I'm trying to convince everyone that the Sasquatch are evil. And I've definitely never dictated that they are evil to anyone. There is some bad ones out there, and there's obviously some kind ones out there, and it's very confusing, right? What you experienced, the kindness, the kind of actions, people being helped, that has been reported hundreds of times, without a doubt. One thing that comes to mind is that time I read about it somewhere, as emailed or I read it, and there was a hiker who had broken a leg, and was picked up and carried by one of these beings. I believe the one that picked him up was female. Picked him up, carried him for a ways, and gently placed him next to the main trail where other hikers would be coming by, and then stood back within sight of the person as they lay on the ground. Could see the Sasquatch and another one right there while hikers came up and approached him. Holy shit, what's wrong with you? And he looked up and they're gone. And that's one occurrence that's somewhat similar to what you just experienced and reported to us, right? There's numerous experiences reported of these beings helping human beings. Thank God. I wonder how many people who experienced what you experienced were the same deal. Like, I wonder if that cop or whoever, I wonder how many of those people are watching this channel right now. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? I'll bet you one of them is. I'll bet you they're here. I guarantee you there's a shit pile of people out there who do not want to publicly admit they're even interested in this topic, let alone they've seen something and they're watching this channel. I'll guarantee you there is a shit pile of... Does the Bigfoot Sasquatch community still exist? I haven't a clip. I don't watch any of it, but I'll bet you there's a shit pile of members of the Bigfoot Sasquatch community who I have absolutely pissed off, who cannot stop watching this channel as well, right? But anyways, I don't even know why I just said all that. Kind of tired. It's the end of the day. It's in the evening time. Had a big day today. But anyway, getting back to what you shared, that's an amazing story, man. What an amazing experience. I would have loved to have been the helicopter pilot and seen what was there. How hard would it have been to not follow that thing with the helicopter, right? It's too bad nobody got a picture, but whatever. It is what it is. We had somebody email a while back that explained how they did not think for 1 second to go for a camera when they were experiencing what they were experiencing. And they said flat out, you just don't think about it. And I can concur on that one. You just don't think about it at the time. When you say it was a constant whistle, I imagine what you mean is there was no breaths in between. It was just ripping that whistle off. By the sounds of it, that must have been something else to listen to that. That'd be pretty weird. But then to find the whistle later, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, man. I appreciate it. And I know other people do for sure. Without a doubt. Whoa. Let's check the camera, make sure it's still running. Change the angle for a bit. Kinda, sorta. Here we go, mark this one as red, here we go. Miscellaneous Minnesota sightings and encounters plus. All right, here we go. Hey Steve, I found your channel because I've exhausted all other options for Sasquatch info. I don't know why I didn't check it out sooner, but maybe the title didn't catch my eye. Thank you for doing this. Nothing personal, but I skipped past your intro vid because I just want to get to the good stuff, although you did a good job on it. Hey man, thanks for that. And I'm glad you mentioned it because we've had some people complain about the odd things on the video. It's kind of like, you don't have fast forward on your device, really? Thanks for that, man. You'll never be able to insult me. It's okay, it's all good, I understand, I get it. Here comes a long one. I've got a lot to say. For years now, 10 or so, I've posted on Craigslist for anyone's story, but most of the time they get flagged by some troll and get deleted. Go figure. So I just repost. I've got Bigfoot on the brain. I've seen every documentary, I'm pretty sure, know all the names involved, etc. From elementary school onward, I've had a craving for UFOs and Bigfoot. Sorry, sabe. You know what, everybody call it whatever you want, man. I don't tell anybody what to call these things. I just, for myself personally, I prefer to call them what the First Nations people called them originally. That's just me. Over the years, if I felt their relationship permitted it, I would ask that person what they think of Bigfoot, plus there are random people I would ask. I don't care what you think. You'll be surprised how many people have seen one, as we are finding out here, Steve. Yeah, no doubt, man. I ask all the time, and the amount of people that have seen them is absolutely overwhelming. It's ridiculous. I've never seen a sabi or even heard anything associated that I recall. There's a sighting not far from where we hunted deer. I found teepee structures and just occasionally looked for signs. My mom and dad both grew up in northern Minnesota and never heard stories of sabi. I'll take your word for it that a person doesn't want to see one of these monsters. I did it for a while, but I'll just take everyone's experience and learn from them so I can quit picking ticks off me and stop scaring the deer. When someone tells you their story, you can see in their eyes they're telling the truth. I'll start with a story a coworker told me. We were a group of guys doing ultrasonic inspection on welds for the Navy's nuclear subs. So you see, a pretty serious group of guys. I got to know one of the guys over time, and one day I asked him what he thinks of Bigfoot. Number one, he was backpacking in Colorado, set up camp just above the tree line. He woke up with a giant hand inches from his face. He flinched. How dare he? Then the hand lifted, and whatever it was shook the ground the first few steps leaving. He almost puked from the smell of it through the tent. Short but sweet. Sounds like other stories I've heard here. Number two, I was a guest of the DOC for almost a year and got to know a biker who was also a guest there. When you have nowhere to go, you can get to know someone in a short time. I asked the question, bam, another. He was from Kentucky, no bullshit, old school. He was driving through a burned out area, forest fire went through, and things were still smoldering here and there. A tall bastard with a shorter one up the hill 50 feet off the road, kicking at smoldering log. He got a good look at them, human looking. Number three, this happened within the last year, just west of Brainerd, Minnesota. I was amazed at how close to town it was at 2 in the afternoon. Somebody else must have seen it trucking across country. Someone else must have seen it trucking cross country that time of day. The poor guy's hunting buddy told me the story. They took a small boat across the river from Dave's land to set up stands for whitetail bow hunting. Doug put his stand up 30 feet off the game trail and climbed up. Dave was in his someplace else. The morning passed, and sure enough, 2 p.m., this thing comes walking down the game trail like he was on a mission. He told Dave he was 8 feet tall, 6 foot stride, looked like a hairy man. So its walk is as fast as a human running, and he was making good time. Must have been upwind of Doug because he didn't see him in his stand and went right on by. Doug was frozen with fear and didn't want to get out of his stand, scared shitless. When he finally did, he bolted for the boat, went back across the river without Dave. Dave had to find a shallow spot to wade back across. When he got home, he went looking for Doug. He found him in his little camper he had on Dave's lot, sitting inside with a shotgun aimed at the door. He was in there for 2 days. He could see the wrinkles on the side of its face and hands, by the way. The end. Number four, a friend of mine was hunting in Colorado. He was walking along and he came up to a beaver lodge. This thing stood up from behind it. They looked at each other for 30 seconds, then it took off up the hill. When they went back to track it, the hill it went up was so steep they had to crawl on all fours, and the Sabe walked up like nothing. The same as what my grandfather reported when that thing looked at him. Took off up the bank in 2 leaps where my grandpa had to climb hand over fist. Number five, this one's from Minnesota. A friend girl of mine was staying in a camper on land of a friend by Deerwood, Minnesota. One night she saw red eyes the size of tennis balls in the woods. She could hear people talking in the woods. She couldn't tell what they were saying. I asked her if it sounded like samurai speech. Her eyes got big and said yes. I asked if anyone was throwing rocks or screaming at night. Her eyes got big again. How do you know, she asked. Well, it's typical Sasquatch behavior. That's the last thing on my mind, she says. She told me the owners of the land heard screams a lot. When they went to chase off the kids partying back in the woods, they could never find anybody. I took a trip out there and found some strange log/stick structures back in a ways. The end. Number six, another one from Minnesota. A friend girl was staying in a camper by the Pine River, Minnesota. She told me some neighbor kids had been smacking the camper at night and could never catch them. I asked if they were throwing rocks too. Of course they were, those rascals. I told her Sasquatch. She looked at me funny for a minute, then her face kind of turned white and said, yes, it wasn't kids. I went out there too. I found a couple of strange teepee blind type structures around the place. The end. Number seven, Longville, Minnesota. A friend of a friend told me he was being paced by 3 or 4 of these guys when hunting. Also, they slapped the side of his trailer from time to time. Why do they do that? How unnerving. Do they realize that shit gives people gray hair? I would me. Number 8, 2 other friends of mine had seen a Sabe when they were about 8. One said the thing's breath smelled really bad. Breath or BO, he was close. I need to get the details. Number 9, north of Pine River, a friend saw what he described as a bony wolf the size of a horse run in front of the car. When I asked more questions, he told me, no, I don't want to talk about it because it scared him so much. I have another story or two, but I want to hear more stories, so get through this email already. By the way, I'm 58, ex-Marine, and I've tried all of the lies. And I'm tired of, by the way, I'm 58, ex-Marine, and I'm tired of all the lies like everyone else. Take care and don't take any wooden nickels unless it's for a free beer. William Booth. Wow. Whew. Thanks for looking into that, man. Well, thanks for sharing everything that you looked into with all of us through me, through this channel. Appreciate it, man. And you know just as well as I do, isn't it just freaking bizarre how many people know about these things, have seen them? Isn't it freaking bizarre? And you know as well as I do now as well that you won't hear about it unless you ask, right? Obviously. But you won't hear about it unless you look people square in the eye, square up with them, be confident, be honest, and don't add in any humor or sarcasm, and honestly ask them if they know if anything's going on this bizarre, weird in the woods, or they've seen anything at all, what they know. And once people realize that you're sincere and you're a safe place, they spill. The amount of people spilling right now, excuse me, is really something else. There's a lot of people spilling now. It's safe to do it in more than... This place is a very safe, very popular place to be safe and to share, but there's a good handful of other safe places as well now, thank God. So, thanks again for that share, my man, and make sure you share more, all right? And I'll keep sharing more on top of this video right now. All right, here's another one. This is titled The Walnut Creek Follow-Up. Did it follow me home? All right. I'd imagine we asked you to email in more. I'm gonna find it in a minute. Walnut Creek Follow-Up. Did it follow me home? Hello, Steve. I previously sent a possible encounter by my brother, which you just read, titled Walnut Creek. We were very excited. I'm now writing about experiences I had when I returned home from the camp out with my brothers and sisters. Follow-up. A couple days after returning home, a 2-hour drive from my brother's land, I was woken up about 3 in the morning to something slapping the side of my house. I would have thought it was a dream, but my dog, a Belgian Shepherd, jumped up barking and wanted to go outside. Still half asleep, I got my flashlight and went out with her to see what it was. I'm in East Texas and live in a very heavily wooded area, surrounded by the piney woods on both sides and the back of my property. My dog ran out ahead of me barking, and I followed with my flashlight thinking I would find the usual suspects, raccoon, possum, armadillo, or a stray cat. She went around the back of the house barking and then came immediately back and headed for the door. This is unusual, as she usually spends 5 to 10 minutes inspecting the fence line to make sure she hasn't missed anything. The next night, just after dark, she heard something outside, run out, and barked for a few seconds and came right back in. Once again, very unusual, and she did not go back out that evening. From that point, she would not go out into the backyard at night at all, even if I went with her. She would get on the bed, stand over me, and just shake. I would turn on music and shut the bedroom door just to get her to calm down. This is what I would have to do when there was a severe thunderstorm, but there were none in the area. She'd also stand on the screened front deck with her nose in the air sniffing, but would not go off the deck. I would have to put her on a leash and walk her out to the front yard to do her business. This went on for about a week until I had an overnight guest who, on the first morning, said he had been woken up by a sound in the middle of the night. When I asked him to describe it, he said it sounded like something had slapped the side of the house. Maisie and I were sleeping in a different part of the house and didn't hear anything. At this point, it finally started to dawn on me what could be happening. Did something see my interest in them at my brother's and follow me home? I did check for footprints at that point and found what looked like a large dog print, about 3 times the size of my dog's, right outside where my bedroom is, and on the only part of my property that is not lit up by motion lights. I was going to go take a picture, but decided it would prove nothing, and that type of investigation is what had brought this on in the first place. It took me another week of dealing with Maisie not going out in the backyard before I got tired of getting up to walk her out front at all hours. One morning I walked into my backyard facing the woods and acknowledged them, but told them that they did not have my permission to be there or to scare or harm myself or my dog. I then said a prayer and invoked Jesus' name. I've had no other problems since. It took Maisie a few days to decide it was safe again, but she is now back on her nightly patrols. I don't see or hear any vocals, no bad smells or fear, so I still can't be sure, but it did seem like a coincidence with the timing of the events at my home. I'm in no way seeking out an experience, but I dang sure want to be prepared if I do. So I keep listening and learning. Love the prayers to you, love and prayers to you and Sarah. Just call me Gail. P.S. In the Walnut Creek experience, my brother is building a house on the property, so we'll see what happens. Wow. Okay, Gail, thank you so much for the kind words, the prayers, the encouragement, and I think it's great that you're going to keep listening to all the people and keep learning for your benefit, right? For yours, your families, and your friends. The house slapping, that is something that I have experienced, and it sucks. Well, it really sucked for me because I was in a place where there was no lights outside, absolutely rural, and by myself, no curtains on the windows, pitch black outside, and that thing slapping the wall at the top of the 8-foot wall right behind my head where I was on the couch, on the wall of the house where there's no windows, but right above me, and it shook the frickin' chimney from the wood stove. It's not a very cool thing to do to anyone. I don't know why they do it. I haven't a clue. It's common though. It's happened thousands of times. It's been reported without a doubt. I mean, I know people firsthand, friends of mine who've had the same thing happen to them as well. One person had a Rottweiler who loved to chew on people that weren't invited, and that dog would normally want to rip through the front door when somebody's knocking on the door, and that dog was cowering, crawling underneath the bed on the second floor of the house as something was slapping the side of the house 12 feet up on the wall. It's creepy. It's a creepy thing. It's a shitty thing to do to innocent people, right? I don't know why they do it. I don't know why they torment innocent people. I haven't a clue. It's too bad they couldn't torment guilty, evil human beings instead, right? Would that be great? Maybe we should try that. Maybe we should all go into the woods and say, hey man, we know you're here, you know I'm here. I have absolute respect for you, and here's an address for you. If you could please go torment this person until you put them in a straitjacket, I'd really appreciate it. And then we could let them clean up all the dirty, sick bastard politicians on the planet. Anyway, I'm tired, man. It's been a long day. I gotta go. I'm gonna keep pumping this shit out, and I'm not gonna stop. And everybody has a voice, and everybody's gonna get an opportunity to share what they sent in through me on this channel, no matter what. See you shortly.